Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Martinez here. I am the host of Operation Agency Freedom. And of course, in my day job, I am the CEO and founder of Bloom, where we work with marketing agencies and provide management consulting and technology to increase profit, maximize your agency's value, unlock your potential, and achieve an 8-figure exit. And today I have all the way from Frisco, Texas, Carrolee Lee Drummonds, who's the CEO and founder of Carrolee Moore Consulting Group. They help ambitious B2B founders move beyond the social media hamster wheel to build genuine authority across multiple marketing channels and attract your ideal clients. I love that USP. That's awesome. So welcome to the show, Carrolee. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited for this conversation for so many different reasons.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm very excited as well. So it's interesting because, we have our booking team members who reach out to agency owners that they find, however they find them on the internet. And you actually responded and were like, you know what? I don't know if I'm the best fit. But then when I saw your response, because it actually got forwarded up to me, I was like, I think this would be perfect. I think this would actually be very, very good to have on the show because you recently sold your agency, which is something that a lot of agency owners dream about. I think when we start our agencies, we kind of have this idea of working from the beach, like being able to have this great lifestyle and
Oh, yeah.
freedom. And of course, the money that comes with that, and where you can travel and do, work in your own schedule and those types of things. And the reality of running an agency is that it's really freaking hard. Right. And there's a lot of moving pieces. And sometimes I think as you're building the business, the path of how you go from where I'm at today to selling the business one day can get a little bit muddied,
Mhm.
And so you're somebody who, and of course, we're going to dive into this with your story. You sold your agency and there were some epiphanies along the way as well as you were going through that process. So let's start off. Just tell us about your entrepreneurial or agency story and kind of how you got started.
Sure. So I am a graphic designer at my base, among other things, but for this conversation, I started graphic designing in 2009 and had been freelancing on the side as we do, probably around 13, 14 years. So a really long time doing graphic design. And then around the pandemic, I decided to do it full time, or I should say, my job decided I should do it full time.
That happened to me too. It was kind of funny.
And I was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. But the beauty of it was in the middle of all of that kind of craziness, I got a lot of new clients because I wasn't the only one getting let go. And a lot of folks were starting their own businesses, trying to figure things out. And folks knew that I was a graphic designer. So I just got an influx of work. And then that led to like, hey, can you build websites? I'm like, yeah, because I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
And then, I pulled in other people who actually can build websites. And I just started to work with a few and then a lot of different consultants and creatives, but eventually got into the space where I was like, I can't control the quality of the work. And my portfolio right now looks crazy because some of it's really great and others, like, I would never show this like the light of day. And so I wanted to actually bring people in-house that I knew had raw talent, but that I could actually kind of cultivate.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I was like, I'm done being the graphic designer. I would love to just kind of be the creative director of all of this. So eventually that led to the actual formal agency. I was calling it an agency before, and I think a lot of people do that where they're like, you're technically a solo entrepreneur that is farming workout, but you call yourself an agency. I get it.
Right. Yeah.
But eventually I built like a bona fide business with a full team. At our biggest, we were up to 9.
Oh, nice.
And eventually decided to just focus on brand building and web design and kind of the services around those two things. So we dropped everything else. We weren't doing SEO. We weren't doing all this other stuff, advertising. We just wanted to focus on that and got really, really darn good at that. And then I got a business partner in 2023, top of 2023. And by the end of 2023, we had hit the highest we've gotten in revenue. I won't necessarily share that number, but it was definitely, I think we were at that point growing between 30 to 40% every year. It was absolutely bananas. And I think that's what ironically like broke us because we just didn't, looking back, now I can see, okay, that was a mistake. Okay, that you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Things that were kind of operations, processes, etc. The things that break businesses, not necessarily not getting clients. It's all the other things.
Yeah. So when you say broke, you guys,
Yeah.
are you talking about the partnership or the business or kind of both?
Kind of both. My business partner and I are still friends.
Good.
And I still respect her. And I think we grew in respect for each other and realized we're not necessarily, we don't work the same.
Yeah.
And our goals for what we thought the agency should be were not the same.
Yeah.
And so we kind of mutually agreed at the end of the year, which was kind of a test year. We had like a 19-page agreement to that end to make sure that it was a test year. We decided, hey, I think we should just kind of cut our losses here. So
well, why is of you to have that in there, by the way? Because a lot of people don't have that in there. So I'm looking at taking equity in some agencies right now that are kind of in that, not necessarily startup mode, but like right after that startup mode. And I specifically put in my agreements that either of us can be bought out at year 1 or 3. It doesn't matter. And we put in at 1x revenue just to make it straightforward and simple. If you want me out in a year, perfect. Just buy me out at 1x revenue times my percentage, So it's really, really good that you had that in there.
I definitely, I think I got burned. It wasn't even for a partnership. I just got burned by not adhering to an agreement one time. And
that's all it took. Yeah.
That was like years before when I was still just freelancing. I was like, never again. Everything is going to be. And what I loved about my business partner, we combed through that document together as a shared document. She highlighted things that she wanted to, had questions about. And so we both kind of talked to the attorney. Hey, can we change this language? Can we make this a bit more? And that really helped us to where when we were exiting, it wasn't confusion as to like what happens. We knew exactly what it was. So
okay, so I kind of derailed your story, but so you realized that things were kind of breaking after you had your best year in 2023, and then now you guys, because you had done some good planning at the beginning, you decide to split ways, and then this is basically when you decide to sell the agency.
No, so she went back to corporate. She was kind of done with entrepreneurship, hence why we have two, because I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to, I might hop to different things. I might sell soap before I go back. And so that's that split. And after she left, it was kind of doing a postmortem of like, okay, what the heck was that? And just the partnership of the company as a whole. And where did I see and want to see the business go? I immediately went into, okay, I'm now back by myself. I chopped the team down a lot because I saw that we were spending a lot on, salaries, et cetera, but I wasn't seeing, direct kind of ROI on a lot of that stuff. So I just pulled things down, became a much smaller team. Ironically, we did a crap ton more with 4 people than we did. But then it kind of, I think I just had to have a come to Jesus moment of like, do you actually still want to do this in this way? I always saw this as the end goal. I always saw this as I'm going to build this agency up. I'm going to sell it for like millions of dollars and, go off to like be a best-selling author and all the things. I saw this happening like 5-10 years down the line, though. It wasn't like this year. And it was just a lot of self-reflection as to what I really wanted. And it felt selfish as I was making the decision, but I also realized, as the leader, if I wasn't 110% bought in, which is what my team was doing, they're following me, then we're really not going to ever get to the place that we need to. So that's the reason why one of the reasons why I shipped.
Wow. Yeah. So, and this all happened within the course of a year, essentially, or a year and some change.
As far as what exactly?
From when you and your partner paired up to when the split happened, essentially.
Yes, it was a year where she left, and then we were in the agency for 6 months after.
Okay, got it. I mean, what was kind of going through your head as you're deciding to sell off this business?
I am living a life that is more stressful than enjoyable, and I'm not, because hard work is not a problem for me. I'm an immigrant. I'm a daughter of a Jamaican man that had 2 jobs and still did like part-time work after. Like that's
hard work doesn't scare you.
No, not at all. So I realized, because that was also the thing in my, like, hey, you just need to work harder. do more things. Like, okay. Health was a huge factor in this. I started getting chest pains. I had never gotten any kind of physiological reaction to anything in my life. I was an athlete up into and through college.
What's your sport?
Track and field.
I had a feeling.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I just think of like the most famous Jamaican athlete is Usain Bolt.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
So
Well, I mean, it's not a stereotype if it's true. We enjoy running. We enjoy anything field events. So
Yeah. I know I'm a soccer player, so there were a lot of the Reggae boys who played in MLS as the league was developing. So I remember a lot of those guys.
Yes.
Jamaica for a number of years would give the U.S. troubles in qualifying.
Yes.
Hated going down there to go play. Anyways, so continue. Sorry, I interrupted you with the sports.
No, it's okay. Yeah. And so health was a huge factor on this. I just realized that my body was kind of telling me, hey, this might not be the lifestyle that you need to be living. I also realized that I was, as much as I enjoyed the projects that we were working on, I was a lot more concerned. I lived my life in 2-week sprints. It's like pay period to pay period to pay period. Like that was what it was. It stopped being about the joy and the fun of the work, which I had been doing for so long. I mean, coming from like 7 hours of doing graphic design and like not eating, like I'm obsessed, love that work, to now not even wanting to see anything, not wanting to be involved in anything. I trained my entire team. I trained me out of the business.
Which is good. That's smart.
It is good. And I teach other agency owners how to do that now, the irony of all of that. But I recognized how unhappy I was. And it's like, you didn't leave corporate America and all of the things that come with that to then create a whole other gilded cage. So something has to change. Your health is not doing too hot. Your relationships aren't doing too hot. Friendships suffered because I was obsessed with, I need to get this. And it wasn't kind of like I was taking these elaborate vacations, kind of what you talked about in the beginning, where it's like, we thought it's going to be like champagne sipping on the yacht. And what I was like, I can't leave. I'm tied to things that I'm not happy with. And it just, it was being down to a decision of like, what do I want my life to be? If I died tomorrow, am I good with what I just did? The answer was no.
I love that you're so honest about this, because there's a lot of people that start agencies, I think, with the wrong expectation of what it's going to be like. Like, let's just look at a show like, Mad Men, that kind of glorifies the advertising world. Like, it's not really like that. Like it's really hard. Actually, I had an agency owner who started the agency, and we were having a conversation one day, and he was telling me, I was like, well, why did you start the agency? And he's like, I want to make a lot of money. And I was like,
that's going to go away real quick.
You picked like the hardest way to make money. Like, if you want to make a lot of money, like you want to do it through a marketing agency, like you can make a lot of money, but there's a lot of easier, like he had no passion for it, and people talk about the importance of passion, and it is passion. But just because you have passion doesn't mean that that's going to translate into money. And just because you have passion doesn't mean that that's a business that you could start. It can still be like a fun idea. Actually, you don't know this about me because we just met. My dad died of cancer in 2007. And I decided that I was going to start a soccer magazine because I love soccer, right? So I started a print soccer magazine in 2007. And it was like the worst time in history to start a print publication. And I lost everything stupidly. And it was my own fault. I don't blame anybody else. But I thought, like, I have a passion for soccer. I'm going to figure this out and make it work. That was dumb. That was really, really dumb for me.
No, 1,000%. There was a post on LinkedIn, I think it was like the week after I decided like we're done, from someone who had an agency, went under, he went and worked for a bigger agency and kind of just took a break from entrepreneur, and then came back in, and he's like, these are the things I learned. And he said, if you don't check off, I think it was like a list of 5 things as to like why you're doing this, please do not start an agency.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know for me, processes and procedures, which I think a lot of people struggle with, is my style. Yeah. I'm a trained project manager. That's how I started.
Oh, that's a huge competitive advantage. Yeah.
Right. And so our projects were managed well when I could control certain variables. And I think from what ended up happening in some of those cases is I am still a creative. And so I am the creative's creative, meaning I will trust you. I will, exactly. You're like, oh,
Yeah. Right as you said, I will trust you. I know where this is going.
right. And I've gotten screwed quite a
Yeah.
bit. And that happened from when I was, again, freelancing and kind of putting things out, trusting people. And I thought, okay, if I have the people in-house, like I can build like a good team and do.
Yeah.
And that took a really long time. The beginning of 2023, when we got a crazy onslaught of new business, was really hard for me because I wanted to trust that the people that we had on board were going to be able to do. And it's really hard for me to go out and sell and hit these kind of big swings when I'm not super confident. And I know that someone who's listening to this is like, yep, you're not super confident that your team that you have is going to be able to like genuinely knock this out as a salesperson. It's hard for me to like full throw. And maybe there are people who are like, listen, I'm gonna sell whatever and we'll figure. I'm not that person. So my passion, it's still there. I'm still in marketing. I'm still around content. This is the way that I'm doing it now is where I have more control over the quality, truly.
Yeah.
And the people that I trust have their own entities and are kind of on the hook with the client as me, a project manager, where I love to be. But I'm not supervising, if you will, that work. And that's where I think a lot of the disconnect happened in my agency and where we fell like grossly short, among other things. But that was probably the biggest thing for me is you having a growth strategy. I mean, we grew pretty steadily, like I said. And I think if we kept going without hiring all those damn people full time before we had money to pay them. We would have been in a different position and maybe I wouldn't have been as miserable and maybe I left. But given what the circumstances were, and I believe I made the best decision. And I can't say that leaving your agency is the best decision for everyone, but I certainly hope that everyone is doing a super deep analysis of like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Why am I doing this to myself? I think every agency owner asks that of themselves at least once, but I think it's important to really reflect and answer that question seriously. I will point out one thing though, because this isn't necessarily a negative that you trusted in other people. And I think where that comes from is because when somebody assigned you something, you always came through. I don't think that there's ever a time in your life where somebody assigned you a task and you just blew it off. There was always a part of you internally that felt an obligation to somebody else to deliver. I don't know, because my grandfather immigrated from Mexico, my mother immigrated from Taiwan. I don't know if that's an immigrant thing, but I do see that quality in immigrants where it's not where we can't just say whatever.
Yeah, no.
It's just not part of who we are or like how I was raised at least.
Yeah. Or like, okay, that's good enough. I don't know what good enough is.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be a certain level or I'm not going to do it. Like I just will tell you no.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that. If I know for sure this is not something I can do to the best of my ability, I'm not going to do it.
So to that point, you trusting in other people, you're kind of looking at them through the lens of how you would how you would perform if you were in their position. And as you are building out a team, that's where the importance of systems and accountability comes into play because not everybody's like you, unfortunately. Not everybody's like us, where you give us a task and we're going to hit it out of the park every time. So that's one thing, and I see that very, very frequently with agency owners. There's another saying that I'm going to paraphrase it here, that if you run a business, most likely you've always been the A player. And so eventually you get to a place where you start having to hire people and not everybody's going to be an A player. And you have to figure out how to manage the B players, which is incredibly frustrating because we're A players. Why can't you just be an A player? Like I did it and I had fewer resources than you. What are you complaining about? Like, let's just go, And so that's part of like a learning experience that we have as entrepreneurs. So next question for you though is, I know, like before we started the show and in the notes, you talked about like mistakes and mistakes that you recognize that you made. What are some of those key mistakes? Because these are really, really important learning lessons for everybody else that's out there.
1000%. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we made, and I could probably go right back to that being the start of all the things, is we took a really good quarter, made it mean more than it did.
Okay.
Meaning, I mean, we made more in Q1 of 2023 than we made in more than half of 2022.
Wow.
So we're like, oh, this is about to, you know what I mean? So hired multiple people, and not as contractors to say, okay, these are per project things, and when the project is done, you're good. We hired full time. And one of the worst mistakes for multiple reasons, because it wasn't just like we hired extra people that were like killing it, and so now our capacity is that. It was like hired all these extra people that we still were trying to figure out whether or not they were the right fit.
Okay.
Which leads me to the second piece. I can see now where I actually did hire people that were B players, some of them even C, but I saw potential. So I'm a coach, and I genuinely, I love education. I love constructive feedback. I'm the weirdo that's like telling all the stuff that I did wrong so I can do it better, right? Like I'm ready to go. And so I approach leadership in that way as well. And for me, that kind of came back to where I was like, okay, I invested in this person for months, and in the end, didn't really get that back. And there should have been some other like better way to fire fast. I mean, fire fast. Hire slow, fire fast. Yeah. For me, that was a big piece. So we hired way too fast, fired way too slow. And I do believe in the, like, as far as partnerships go, having a completely different vision for the agency than my partner, because I was never seeing this agency as like 100 or even 50 people. And I saw it as a really small agency that would do really good work, that we eventually would have just a core group of clients that made us a lot of money, to where we can then sell to a larger company and say, hey, push this into your bigger thing. She was on like, we're going to make all this money. You're going to have all these people. So like two different visions and two different work styles that just kind of rubbed. Right. Yeah. And so we were just dealing with a lot of rubbing. Right. Here where we were primed for all this growth, it was just way too much rubbing. And eventually, that growth slowed down. So you're now left with a whole bunch of people. So firing fast, hiring slow, really making sure that you're on the same page with your business partner, that you have the same kind of growth mindset and the same goals for the business. I've heard that quite a bit as far as how partnerships fall apart. Yeah. And then lastly, and this is a huge thing for me now, taking better care of myself. Yeah. I am a workaholic. When I like what I do it a lot. And I didn't know that it was a problem until like my husband started texting me and asking me if I ate today. Oh. Yeah. So now that I'm going into this new venture, I take time out. I actually schedule it to where I'm not only working out, which is kind of like, everyone says that, but I'm taking time to be quiet. I'm taking time to sit outside and just kind of like debrief and not this, crazy, so whether it's going to the chiropractor, getting into therapy, having and finding time and scheduling like monthly, for me, time with your friends so that you're getting recharged and not talking about work all the time. I mean, I was talking about it all the time. Yeah. Because I was right. So yeah, those are the big ones, I would say.
Yeah, this is so great. And I'm really happy that there was a happy ending, right? That you were able to do the exit and you were able to sell the business, and maybe not in the conventional way that some people think of, but we won't get into that because we're running out of time. But I see a lot of agency owners who struggle with these exact same things that you're just talking about, right? Over hiring, discrepancies with the partner. These are cliches in the agency split like world. And a lot of the times they don't have happy endings. They basically just shut their doors, everybody leaves with debt, and then that's it. So like, I'm glad you were able to see your way to a relatively happy ending, and I'm excited for your new venture, which really quickly, you're a consultant. So just, 30 seconds or less, tell us what it is that you're working on, and then we'll wrap up and get you out of here.
So a lot of people that talk about content often talk about social media. I work with B2B founders and their teams to decentralize social media. I'm tentatively calling it antisocial content marketing, where I help you to develop plans of like talking on podcasts and what does that look like. And this is why, you know, I'm super passionate just about taking people off of I call it the hamster wheel, but there are different ways to grow your authority. There are different ways to get people to know who you are. It's not just social media. You can use social media, but there are other ways. And if you want to know more about antisocial content and what that actually means and more ways to do that, please follow me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. I'm going to talk to you after the show because I love that line, antisocial, and I need help with exactly what you talked about. So, all right. Well, Carrolee, thank you so much for being on here and being so brave and sharing your story and your lessons. I know that every single story that you told is going to resonate with our listeners. So thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for allowing me to still come on, even though I don't have an agency anymore.
I know, like your story has so much value. How could I say no? You know, that's how I approached it. So with that being said, to all of our listeners, thank you all for tuning in today. Definitely follow Carrolee, reach out to her if you have any questions, and I will catch you all on the next episode. Have a great day, everybody. Hey, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you would subscribe to the podcast and also share it with friends, family, and basically anyone you know who will find the same value in this episode as you do. So, to get the latest from me, then let's connect on social media on the Facebooks at facebook.com or Instagram. Then you can also find us on LinkedIn, YouTube. Finally, go to our website where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. Register for live trainings on how to run a highly profitable agency, and you can see exactly how we help marketing agencies fix their operations and scale to 8 figures and beyond. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you next time.